Hey Walking Dead fans, this is going to be a video about the Vatos gang, and I know this is old news. You probably already know. Some of you don't, because I still get a lot of questions about the Vatos gang. And if you rewatch the scene, you'll understand why so many people were attached and wondering anyway about the Vatos group or Vatos gang. And Vatos is a Spanish term for dudes. But of course, in the show, the Vatos gang season 1, I won't go over every little detail of what happened in the actual show, but the season 2 Blu-ray DVDs gave us a glimpse of a pretty long scene. I think it was like 10 minutes or so of a scene that was going to be the opening. You know, season 2 opened with them on the highway, the place where they lost Sophia, but they shot an extended opening scene, and it was going to be just a little bit after they left the CDC. Before they exited the city, they said, we got to make a pit stop somewhere. And so Rick said, what about the Vatos? Let's go stay there. We're friends now. We gave them some guns. We'll get along. They'll accept us in, and we'll be safe for a little while. But before I go into that deleted scene and their fate, let's look at that Vatos scene that we did see in season 1 and some of the funny moments in it and some of the parts that I really liked about the Vatos group in this scene. And Rick, T-Dog, and Daryl are interrogating the Vatos member that they captured. And of course, the Vatos had captured Glenn. So they're interrogating him. And he said, I don't know, this guy was just screaming about his brother like I had something to do with it. And Daryl said, well, he took Glenn. You could have took Merle. And so the dude's like, Merle? What kind of hick name is that? I wouldn't even name my dog Merle.
They took Glenn. Could have taken Merle, too.
Merle? What kind of hick name is that? Wouldn't name my dog Merle.
Damn!
I'm pretty sure I laugh out loud every time I see that part. But definitely one awesome part, and why Glenn may deserve a statue, kind of like Rick got a statue in the comics. Glenn may deserve one as well for just this reason. Daryl was saying Glenn may not be worth trading for these guns because guns are like gold in this zombie apocalypse. He even asked Rick, is the kid worth it? And Rick says,
What life I have, I owe to him. I was nobody to Glenn, just some idiot stuck in a tank.
So he totally acknowledges Glenn saving his life, and every bit of his life at this moment is worth saving Glenn because of that. Glenn had no reason to save Rick, but he did. Because that's Glenn, right? So I thought this was a cool moment showing how Rick acknowledges that. And possibly the funniest moment in could be all of the Walking Dead seasons. I mean, for real. But it's when G says he's got the most evil dogs ever and the stuff he says about it. He says he's going to chop Glenn up and feed him to his dogs. He said they're the evilest, nastiest, man-eating bitches you ever saw. And he said he picked them up from Satan's yard sale.
I'm gonna chop up your boy. I'm gonna feed him to my dogs. 3 of the evilest, nastiest, man-eating bitches you ever saw. I picked him up from Satan at a yard sale.
And he's saying all this shit like serious, right? But of course, when the awesome grandmother comes, and I'll get to her in a second, but when she comes and leads them to Glenn, everybody's like, cool, there's Glenn, and he's okay. Everybody's okay. It's an old folks' home. And T-Dog says to Glenn, I thought you was being eaten by dogs, man. And they look over at the 3 dogs, and the little dogs bark and stuff.
Thought you were being eaten by dogs, man.
I mean, I guess you have to rewatch the scene if you're not laughing right now. But damn, every time T-Dog says that and it shows those dogs, I totally laugh out loud. It's to me, the funniest possible scene in all of The Walking Dead. But who couldn't like the Vatos gang after Felipe's grandmother? And Felipe's the one that got shot in the butt with an arrow from Daryl. But the grandmother comes out and sees Rick in his cop uniform and says, don't take Felipe away. He's a good boy. He's turned his life around. And Rick was like, I'm not. I'm looking for a missing person. And that's when the grandmother says, the Asian boy, he's back here. Let me take you to him.
You take him.
Ma'am?
Felipe is a good boy. He had his trouble, but he pulled himself together.
But the grandmother and the revealing that it's actually a nursing home, the whole reveal of the leader G being a custodian and Felipe being a nurse that worked at the nursing home, and they're just trying to take care of these old people. Man. But in the end, there was a really good exchange between Rick and Guillermo. Rick ended up giving him some guns. He said they've been running into some really bad people, and things like that. No good people like Rick has really come across them. So they've just been on the defensive, and they've been scavenging for supplies, trying to keep the medicine and food and stuff up for the old people, because they're not really able to move them, because some have special needs with some equipment, or they're just too old to be moved. They wouldn't make the journey. But then Rick leaves and we don't see them anymore. And as far as the show goes, as far as the series, we don't see them at all. In the deleted scene, it looks like they're just kind of leaving the CDC pretty much. And somehow, some way, Shane was not in a vehicle, or he got left behind a little bit. Daryl saw him and alerted the RV that Rick was driving, and they picked him up the last minute right before some walkers got him or something. So Shane is in the RV with the rest of them minus Daryl, and they're heading away from the CDC. They're going through the city and decide they want to try to maybe hang with the Vatos, stay there for the night where it'll be safe. And they're pretty sure that the Vatos will be accepting and let the group in. But when they get there, there's no lookouts. They're wondering what's up. And when they kind of round the corner...
Any chance we can get an update on the group in Atlanta that was taking care of their family and the elderly nursing home patients from season 1?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. All dead.
They see all the dead walkers. They see the dead Vatos. And as they make their way through the building, all the old people are dead, have been killed, eaten on. There's some walkers still around, eating on some of the others, and it's just a pretty gruesome scene. A couple of things to point out in this is at one point, Daryl kind of gets snippy with Carol and Sophia, aside of him toward those two that you don't usually see.
Suck in it. Shut her up, right?
And we also see Carl comforting Sophia. We hear Glenn mutter what happened, and Andrea says they got overrun. But then Daryl says observant, and Andrea makes fun of him for using a 3-syllable word. But he says, all these people, they were shot in the head. Somebody came in here and took the medicine, took the guns, took whatever they wanted, killed everybody, including the old people, execution style pretty much. And then the walkers came in, hearing the noise, or with the gate just left open or whatever it was. The walkers came in after the fact.
Y'all worried about walkers? I'd be much more worried about the people who came and did all this.
So it ended up from the time that Rick and Daryl and them left the Vatos gang the first time, went to the CDC, it exploded, and they come back through the city and made a stop at the Vatos location. Some bad guys had come through, killed everybody, and took all their stuff. But in that scene, we didn't see Felipe or Guillermo or the dead grandmother. It didn't focus in on any of those people because they probably didn't bring them back to, shoot in the scene. They just got extras and things like that to lay around as some old dead people. So it was a very sad ending, pretty quick ending, actually, to the Vatos gang. And there's been some speculation and theories out there of who the bad guys could have been that took them out. Could it have been the governor? Could it have been some of the other bad guys that they seen along the way? And I don't think so. I just don't think they explored that angle of it. And I don't think it was the governor or his people, but it definitely was some bad people that came in and killed all the Vatos gang. There was one of the actors that played one of the Vatos gang members that appears as a savior in one of the episodes of later seasons, but it doesn't mean that he was playing the same character. He was just an actor that went and got another part as an extra. But, if you wanted to stretch it really far, you could say maybe one of the Vatos gang members escaped and eventually became a savior or something like that. But it's after that we end up on the highway, just like season 2 starts. Sophia goes missing. While searching for Sophia, Carl gets shot, and that leads to the farm. They were actually going to Fort Benning. They had decided in that scene even, it shows them huddling up and deciding, hey, we're going to go on to Fort Benning, something Shane had suggested earlier to do instead of going to the CDC. But of course they ended up at Herschel's farm because Carl had gotten shot. But now you know, that's it. If you didn't know before, or if you did know and maybe didn't know some of the details, and if you have other questions, just throw them in the comments below. I will try my best to answer them, and I always appreciate you guys' comments, so please comment below. And as always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more dead stuff.